everybody, and welcome to another episode of Meet a Writer. Today, I have Elena with me. Am I right? Am I
Yes.
mispronouncing your name?
No,
Or
no, no.
okay. So, with me, and her Instagram username is Elena's Poetry. Welcome, Elena. Thank you so much for doing this with me, and thank you so much for participating and giving me the chance and everybody else to get to know you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a really an honor. So thank you.
The honor is mine, to be honest, because whenever I reach out to people, I'm always like so hopeful that they're gonna be like, oh yes, I'm gonna do it. But also I know that there's also something in writers who which are like, oh, is that okay if I don't show my face because I only like writing and posting those things. So I was happy that you agreed to come.
I understand. I mean, I do spoken word as well, so I already show my face, so that's
Yeah,
there's no problem there. So
oh yeah, absolutely. I saw your videos on your account, so I'm happy. I was like, yeah, I'm a little more hopeful that she'll agree. So I know that you are joining us from Germany, which is
yes,
awesome. And can you do a short intro of you and tell us what you want to say before I ask my own questions? Because I've prepared a few other questions. So a short intro of whatever you like to share.
all right. Thank you so much again for having me. It's very, very cool. I really love to talk about writing and my writing, so that's a great idea to do and to invite me. So yeah, my name is Elena. I'm from Germany, or better yet, I grew up here. I'm originally from Belarus. So we came to Germany when I was like 5 years old, I think, 5 or 6. So yeah, and I have been living here for pretty much my whole life. And yeah, I don't know what else to say.
Okay, that's a good enough
I mean,
introduction.
yeah, I guess it's pretty much all I could say about me. I started writing pretty young, um, but I I wrote short stories when I was younger, like when I was 12 or 13 years old. And I started writing a couple of books, but it never finished up to one. And then when I was 18, yeah, I think 18 or 19, I discovered poetry. So it was pretty late, I think, um, like in comparison to a lot of people. But yeah, I discovered poetry, and that's, ever since then, that's what I've been writing. So,
That's awesome. Actually, you answered my first question, which was awesome.
all right.
Um, that was an incredible manifestation of our connection. That's really interesting, and it's the interesting fact about that was that you started with short stories, but you're not writing short stories at the moment anymore. It's just poetry.
Yes. I mean, I started writing a book, like an actual novel. But yeah, no short stories at the moment. So,
Okay, that's very cool, by the way. I realized that there was also another thing that we had in common. I was like, I have written a few, let's say, books, and then I left one of them incomplete, and then I was like, I'm never coming back to that, and then I came back to it eventually a few days ago. But what's the reason you would say that you kind of left it, and did you just decide that it was not for you, or was there another reason why you decided not to write that anymore?
no, I honestly just stopped. I mean, there was no reason. Well, I can't think of one. Let's just say that. I just maybe I grew out of it. I wrote a lot of short stories about like fantasy and about like I always loved like horror stories. Even when I was younger, which may not be so appropriate, but whatever. I did write them, and I always loved it, but maybe I just grew out of those stories and those like themes. I don't know. It was just lost on me. Like I always read a lot, which now it's flipped. Now I write a lot, but read very little, unfortunately. But yeah, it just stopped, and writing for me stopped for many years. I mean, when I stopped writing short stories, I stopped writing altogether, and as I said, it just came to me when I was 18 with poetry. Weird kind of
Wow.
storyline with me and writing. So
No, but it's really, really interesting because you stopped and then you still came back to writing, but in another form. And
yeah,
what was it that brought you back? Was there an event, or was it just you felt like you had to write and then it just started magically?
I mean, I do believe that writing is a magical kind of thing, which it's a crazy thing to say, maybe especially like to people that don't write or are not creative in any kind of way. But I do think that art in itself is a very like weird thing, and it just comes to you, I think, when it's right and when you need it the most. And for me, I mean, there was a moment where it came to be. I was still at school, and I don't remember if I was 18 or 19, but I pretty much was still in school. It was my last year, and I had the crush on like a guy, on a boy in my class. And I mean, it was pretty cliche in the way that it was just like a heartbreak. Um, because he like I figured out, or like I learned that he had a girlfriend at the time. And so my first poem was about him, and it was actually I wrote it after our kind of prom, like our last dance. And I went there with some friends of mine, and he came there. Sorry, he came there with his girlfriend. So I saw it. I didn't like it, obviously, and it was like in a way that, like, I guess we all know that moment where like we know something and it clicks, but it isn't really that like seen, and then we see it like with our eyes, and it's just the light bulb goes on. And that was a moment. And yeah, so I wrote the poem and I posted it, and that was kind of it. So
Oh my God. I loved the story, and I just love that we all have those moments in our lives where it just like that the thing that you go to is absolutely writing, and then the whole event itself might not be the most positive one, or the not the thing that you would love to remember as a positive experience in your life, but then it brings you to writing, and it suddenly becomes that magical experience, which is like what you told me a few seconds ago, and I really, really liked it, is because when you said that you find your hobby, or the creative way that you can go through things or art when you actually need it. And I loved it a lot. I would even want to like take that line itself, quote you every single time, which was so, 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 so deep and beautiful, and I relate to it deeply. On another note, I actually, even your background right now is so, so creative and like
it's
writery.
actually it's actually it's not my pictures. It's my little sister's pictures. So this is just like
Yeah,
some
the
part,
whole
you know.
background itself. I was just looking whenever when you were talking, and I was looking at the background. It was like flowers and then notepads, and I was like assuming that there's some writing in them, and
Yeah,
then all of that together, I was like everything about her screams writing, and
it
yeah,
is. I mean, I guess so. That's a huge thing to say, and a huge compliment. Thank you. But we are actually a very creative family, so it's not me. But weirdly enough, I'm the only one in my family who writes. So everybody, like my sisters, I have two sisters, they're huge painters. They paint a lot, they draw a lot. My mom too. My mother's actually also um, kind of. I mean, she isn't a musician in like professional way, but she played piano all my life. So it's a huge thing in our family. But yeah, I'm the only one who writes. So I can't paint, I don't draw, and I can't sing or play an instrument for days, but I do write. And
wow.
I'm very grateful actually that writing found me and other things didn't, because I mean it would be great to paint, and would be great to sing or play something, but I'm very grateful that writing is the thing for me, and nothing else. So
Yeah, I think it's never too late to find talent and passion in other
Mhm.
forms of art as well. But it's I'm happy too that writing found you, because that's how we found each other, and that's how
Exactly.
your audience found you and your words. And I was going through your account a few days ago. I was looking through your pieces, and yesterday as well, and I also looked at your Q&A, and there was one question that I really liked, and I was like, yes, I'm going to take this question and also ask her the same question during our interview as well, which is, has poetry changed your life, and in what ways? And I wanted you to talk about that here as well, because your response was very emotional, and I was like, she has to say it here as well.
You're lucky that I kind of forgot my answer to that question. I think I know what I said back then, because I think I said something about the way that I became more vulnerable and more honest. And I mean, it's still, it still stays true today. Um, that's, I mean, that's an honest answer to that question. It did taught me a lot of vulnerability, or to say it maybe better, I don't know if it taught me that, but it did certainly teach me to express it and to share it, because I think, a lot of things taught me vulnerability, and I do think that probably is one of those things. But I feel it really taught me to share it with other people, and to also let people, or allow people to open up themselves, through, I guess, through my poetry, or just through theirs, through their, my English is not, through their experiences. And I think that's what vulnerability does at the end of the day. It just allows not only you to open up, to your own feelings and emotions and everything, going on, but it mostly allows other people, and I think that's what, I think that's the greatest, I guess, reason why I do it, and why I write the way that I write, and why I write about the themes that I write about. Not because it's easy to do, or not because, it's so great and like whatever, but it's just because I don't want people to live, and better yet, I guess, survive their emotions in silence, and buried, in shame and guilt. I want them to speak it. And I think it just becomes easier to do it when you see other people do it before you. And I guess that's the reason why I do it. I get a lot of people sometimes ask me how I am able to write like that, or how I'm able to write about experience that are very difficult and emotions that are very difficult. And I mean, it's not easy. And the truth is, everything pretty much I now write, I couldn't write about a couple of years ago. And so I find a great honor and a great, blessing in it. And for me, as I said, like, the real blessing about it is that other people hopefully feel the wish and the want to open up to me, or just to themselves, to family, to whatever. And that's the, yeah. So I guess, come back to the question, because my mind is racing and I have a lot of thoughts. But um, yeah, I think poetry changed me in in this aspect, that I'm just more honest, especially to myself. I think that's one thing to be honest with other people, but I feel like the true, I guess, gift, or the true art, is to be honest with yourself. And that's the hardest thing to do. But I learn it every day. And poetry is just a great place to express, you know the truth, and to own it also, because in a lot of ways, other people own our truth, and like, we kind of, like, our truth and us are kind of separated, by everything. And I just feel like writing is a great way to start owning everything that is you, the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, everything. So
I loved your answer. There were so many beautiful messages in what you were saying, especially like being honest with yourself, being honest so that other people get the courage to do it. Because I can see lots of people doing it, and I can see one of the favorite things for me about the poetry community that we have on Instagram and even on Threads as well is the fact that people actually support each other, and they're like it's not like I'm being vulnerable, so you don't get your spotlight. My vulnerability gets spotlight, and your vulnerability gets its own spotlight as well. And it's really beautiful in the way that we also get to uplift each other, support each other, give each other that beautiful attention that we deserve. And also the fact that lots of other people, even those who don't write, find that relatability in your poetry, find themselves in your writing. Because I got to see lots of beautiful comments on your page, and I get to see how people find themselves, and sometimes they don't understand how to process their emotions, but you do that for them without even realizing, just because you're having those emotions yourself. And one that's again one of my favorite things about writing is the fact that sometimes you go through things and you think that you're the only one, but you just decide to simply write about it, and then somebody from another part of the world, and you think you wouldn't ever meet, you wouldn't ever connect or talk to each other, is like, oh, actually I'm going through the same thing, and I'm so grateful that you wrote my emotional state, and you wrote all of my thoughts and everything without even knowing me and without even going through the same thing seemingly. It's really beautiful, and it's really powerful. I don't know, I love it. And to also I also want to kind of conclude this question with a few lines from your response that I actually, while reading it, I was like, wow, she's awesome. And this is what you wrote, and this is a reminder for you as well. So
okay.
the question was, has poetry changed your life? In what ways? And you were like, in so many ways. I get emotional talking about this, but poetry opened me up to myself, to life, to love. I believe I became a better human through poetry. I live more because of it. I love more. Poetry made me feel seen, heard, and understood. And there's lots of other thoughts as well, and but I really wanted to emphasize these few lines because they are
Oh,
phenomenal and they're so beautiful
oh,
by themselves. And just reading this made me tear up, even though it was like
yeah,
it
I
wasn't.
will try it now. Kind and cruel of you to read it to me.
I'm
Um,
sorry, I'm so sorry, but it just had to be voiced
no,
because
no, it's really, I mean, sometimes I really think, I have a couple of days, like right now I've been feeling not very, I mean, okay, but, there's a lot of things going on in my head, a lot of thoughts, and, it's a lot of things are unclear right now in my life. And, poetry and writing is the only thing, in my life that has been stable and, or just felt stable. Let's just say that because, sometimes things are stable, but you don't feel it. So, um, it's, yeah, I really think, and you will hear a lot of writers, talk about it. And, sometimes, people, you know, mean it in different ways or more complex ways. But writing did really save me, and it continues to save me. And I don't know, I really don't know where I would be without it, in the sense that I do think that I wouldn't be so open without it. I don't think that I would be confident without it. I don't think that I would feel like I have a voice without it. And it really, if I had to give like one sentence to that question, I would simply say that it gave me a voice when I needed one, and better yet, when I thought I had one, but I didn't. So yeah, that's, I mean, yeah, I guess it's, it's very emotional, but I'm just an emotional person in general. So
I
it's
love that. To be honest, there's there's nothing more beautiful than emotions. I think that's what makes the life so colorful, and that's what makes uh it's so important for us to have those connections. I don't know, I just that's what that's the reason why I'm saying I had to read it, because when I read it yesterday, that's when I felt instantly connected to you. And I was like, I relate to you on such a deeper level than you can imagine, and then I could imagine, like, even without having met you back then. So I think that emotions are the one of the most powerful things in this world, and especially to me, because I think that being emotional is in the past I would think that it's really hard. I mean, it is hard, but in there were moments in my life where I was like, wouldn't it be better for me not to be an emotional person? And then I just for a moment, when I imagined life without emotions, I was like, nah, I'm better off with emotions than just without emotions, because life is so much more beautiful and worth living when you have those emotions. And so let me also share with you a piece that I really liked on your account. I liked lots of different pieces, but I just needed to pick one so that we can discuss. And but the only thing about this is that you if you don't feel like sharing anything about it, that's fine too. But if you feel like sharing something, whether it's the backstory or how you wrote it or how you got inspired to write it, then I would love for you to share it. I never learned how to speak, so now I shout at every step of silence coming my way. To move, making space for the rage, the revenge, the aftermath of never learning how to speak until now. And especially my favorite part was like until now, because it's like, whoa, what? It felt like a cliffhanger. It was like,
Yeah,
no.
you will find it in a lot of poetry. I feel like that's where I learned like my how my writing style kind of is like, because I figured like I do this quite a lot, that like, and it doesn't really matter if it's like a shorter piece or a long piece or like a prose piece even. I do that a lot, that I like write kind of the end, but the end isn't the end, and then like I kind of like throw like the end line in it. So yeah, that's a great. I like that you picked up on it, because I do that quite a lot. A
I
lot of
love it.
people.
I love that punchline where it's like until now. It's like boom in your face, and then you're left with those emotions to kind of
Yeah,
process yourself and think about what it could mean.
yeah.
So can you tell us anything about this piece, like how you wrote it, or maybe what inspired it, if that's not too personal, or maybe your emotions about it?
I mean, it is kind of personal, but that's great. We love the personal stuff. So this poem I actually wrote inspired by a prompt. Mm, I think I put it in the caption, the prompt, and the girls that I got it from. So I don't remember what the prompt was, but I feel like it was maybe I never learned how to speak, something like that.
It was I never learned how to, and then it was like,
Yeah. So I read the prompt, and immediately it was like I never learned how to speak. It was like an immediate response to that, to that first half, I guess, of the line. And then, yeah, I mean, I guess I wrote it pretty quickly. I mean, most of my poems are very fast and like quickly, written. Mm, the backstory, I mean, it's kind of, I just think that, this poem is kind of a response to like my previous poetry, I guess, or like my I guess my life maybe, because I guess my not knowing how to speak for a very long time was the beginning of everything pretty much I did, or everything I tried to do. If it was like in writing or in my personal life, everything I tried to achieve, everything I tried to be, everything I became. And I think, regarding to, the vulnerability I was speaking about and the openness and everything, um, I guess that just came out of not knowing how to speak, because I had to learn how to do it healthy, because as I said in the poem, the line where I wrote like I learned to scream, or like I scream at the silence, something like that. That's metaphorically and also very um just the real thing, because I am sometimes a person who gets angry, and I can get angry very fast and very, you know, in a big way. Let's just say that. And I do think that that is a response to not knowing how to speak, or my words not being heard. Um, and so I guess, I feel like maybe there's like two ways you can go with it. If you never learned how to speak your mind, or like your emotions, or feel like you are not heard, you can either get very angry, and you can either get very like, harsh on people and on yourself, or you can turn, the other way and get very vulnerable and get very soft, and let people in, and open up. And I think, I kind of do both pretty much. But I do think, in the last couple of years, I very much, learned to turn the angry part of me not out, because I don't think that that's healthy, but just a little bit more, to the side, push it a little bit away. So my vulnerable side and my soft side, can have, its place. Um, the last part is the good lines, for the range, for the revenge, because that's the, I guess, like the angry side of me. um, Now I don't know if I believed in revenge and all of the things in rage when I wrote the poem, but I don't really believe in it now, because I mean, of course, rage happens, revenge happens, but it's not, as I said, it's not a healthy thing. It doesn't make anything better. mm, and in a lot of ways, it isn't, revenge or rage against other people. It's more like against me, or like towards me. And that is, I mean, that's really unhealthy. Um, but in a way, it's the only thing I knew for a very long time. So now, like leaning back into, self-love, and into speaking my mind, and just also kind of, I guess, speaking with myself, and like understanding what is she thinking, what is she feeling, asking myself that, like for the longest time I wouldn't know what my feelings are, what emotions are, what I am feeling today. And now I do, and sometimes it sounds like crazy, but sometimes I sit just with myself and I ask myself, how are you feeling? Like, how was your day? How, what can you do today for you to feel better, for you to feel like healthy, for you to feel like more inclined with yourself? Like now I can ask myself those things and I can do them. Before that, when I was younger, I had no idea, I had no idea. And even if I did have an idea, I would just do the opposite. I would just scream, I would run to my room, I would not, talk about it. I would never tell, anybody, and now, I do. It's still hard, it's sometimes it's very, very hard, but I try to do it, because I just learned that it isn't, it isn't just for me, you know it's for other people, and I just, as I think I said before, I don't want people to drown in that shame, and in the silence, and in the guilt. And that's, the line where I wrote that, like, I scream at the silence. That's pretty much it. I scream to make it sound like something, and to also make it like, to reveal that it isn't a monster, and it's just a human being. And I feel like giving things, people, whatever, giving yourself a voice makes you human, and makes you more able to deal with everything, going on. And it just, it's kind of, yeah, do you know, like, I don't know, it's like a, I don't know, it's like, it's not a metaphor, but it's like the story of, like people in the, I don't know, in the wood, like in the forest somewhere, and they were like in this tent, and they were like so afraid of, like, there were monsters, or like, from coming from the outside, and they were so afraid, like, they wouldn't step outside. And then, like, I think like one guy stepped outside and he saw like it was like trees. It was like the shade of trees. And I think that's a very good picture for pretty much everything we are ever, afraid of. And also, if we are ever afraid of ourselves or our feelings, it's mostly the shade, it's mostly the shadow. And if you reveal that, you kind of if you kind of not reveal, kind of hide that and like, erase that, you reveal the truth and the essence of who we really are, and what we are is never, so big and so like terrifying that, how we imagine ourselves or like our emotions to be.
I love this. I love the answer, and I love how you you not only answer the question, but you also go around the bigger topics and the deeper topics of it. And also, you can absolutely see your poetic side when you try to find comparisons and beautiful parallels with metaphors. I love that too. And yeah, absolutely. I agree with all of your points, especially when it comes to anger, when it comes to revenge, all of those things. I agree with those thoughts. And I'm happy that you felt comfortable enough to share with me and the audience the story behind the piece and how important and powerful it was to you, considering the fact that it was just like it the birth of that piece was out of just one simple line that was not even complete by itself. It was like I learned how to, and then it just the whole piece started out of that. But I also noticed on your account something again very very interesting, and I wanted to talk about that too, that you write letters. How did the idea of writing letters come to you? And what do you reach through your letters, or what do you get through your letters that you think that you're not getting maybe through poetry or other forms of writing?
It's a very, very great question. So I guess the thing with the letters, what it wasn't, as I guess nothing is really a very like aware decision for me to do it. I think the first letter I wrote was a self-love letter to myself, which is very pretty down below my all my poems. I wrote it a couple of years ago, and it was something that came to me. I guess it was just like in a moment I needed to hear it, or I needed to read these words, to myself and from myself. So I wrote it and I posted it, and a lot of people, loved it and, told me that, they probably need to do it because, it's a good idea, and, we need to push self-love on us, as much as possible. And then I think it was kind of done with letters. And then I feel like the next letter I wrote about that was actually a letter I wrote about my favorite bookstore here in my town here in Germany, which is the only one here. But funny thing. But yeah, I wrote it. I think it was last year I wrote it, and then it just came more ideas about, people and places and just, things to write a letter about and to write a letter to. Um, and so, yeah, I wrote a couple of ones. I mean, they're all on my page.
Did you
Yeah,
send them
and
the letter? Did you send them the letter that you wrote about
I
them?
I did, and it's really funny. They it it kind of which is crazy again, like how, what writing does for me, but it kind of turned into a bigger thing. And so now they actually want to print it, like it's a big, like, yeah. And it will actually, I didn't reply. I just remember that I didn't reply to the email. They wrote me an email today where they sent me the kind of how it will look like with the font and everything, the letters, everything. And so, yeah, it will hang in the kind of, how's it called, in the, like, the window, like, so you can see it like from the outside. It will like hang on a big, yeah, it's crazy. So,
Oh my god, that's
yeah,
so good. It made me cry for some reason. I don't know why, but like it made me cry for for
it's
some, I don't
actually
know,
insane.
unknown reason, because I feel like it's It's like, again, one of the magical things about writing. It's that it turns into a story. It turns into such a meaningful thing. It turns into something which is more than whatever it was in the beginning. Oh, I'm so happy for you. Are we gonna see it? Are you gonna post it?
Yeah, I will. Of course, I will. I will. I definitely will. I definitely will. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of, it's in the works. So, I mean, I guess it's coming soon, but I don't know when. Yeah, it's a yeah, very insane. But to come back, let's see, pull ourselves together, come back to the question. So, this is the letter I wrote. I posted it, and then I wrote a couple of, other letters to things and places. Um, and what I'm able to do with writing letters, in comparison to writing poetry, um, it just, I mean, because it's kind of like a prose piece, it gives more space to write like more of a story. That's the first one, and the second one, um, it just, in a way, it makes it it makes it like more intimate, I guess, because like, when I think of letters, I think of like love letters, like people, especially like the old ones, like when I imagine like old couples and like, I don't know, like in a war or something, like writing to each other, or like the man writing to the woman back home. It's a very intimate thing, and I also think that it just brings the magic back into people and places and everything, um that maybe would be missing if you didn't write it down, or if you just wrote it down into like a short poem. I think that letters just it's just a beautiful thing, and one of my favorite things I wrote them as letters. So it's just I think it's a very beautiful, idea to just, catch the magic in the moment, and just, in your writing. um it's just, and it's also like, I feel like it's also an act of kind of honoring something or someone. um I just, I really enjoy them. I really enjoy writing them. So, and I wrote some, about like different things. I wrote some. I don't know if you have read through my letters, but I wrote some about, like strangers, like a girl that I met, um, outside when I guess like I waited for a bus or sometimes something, and like this girl came to me and like said that, if she could wait with me because it was like nighttime and she was afraid, and she has like her child with her. And it just like this letter, it makes me very emotional, because it became a very deep one, out of a very, I guess, normal or like random, situation. And I like that a lot. I wrote a letter about like a woman that I saw, at the line, at the supermarket in front of me, buying like two bottles of wine. And I wrote a letter about her, and about, what she would probably do with them, and that she could like invite me, and she, that we could like drink wine together, because, you shouldn't drink alcohol by yourself, like, like stuff like that. I just, it's, you know just like turning random situations into, a very beautiful thing, I feel like.
I don't have even words to describe how much I love situations like that and things like that about writing, when you like take anything and turn it into such a meaningful either story or encounter or connection or anything like that. And I agree with you on the letter part, because to me, I think it's one of the most intimate and meaningful forms of writing. And I also associate it with love letters and war and everything like that, especially that I had a few examples in front of me. My grandma's parents would write each other letters, and you can even see like that she cried while reading the letter, because you can see like the places that the tears fell on and then dried. And then I have really special emotions connected to letters, and I also like writing letters and stuff. I haven't written many, but And again, when I saw that you were writing letters as well, I don't even remember when mine started as well. I don't have many on my account. I wrote one, and that was kind of a little bit of like piece of advice letter to my future child or children. And I was like, to my child. And then I started writing something that I learned throughout either the past few months, or at that moment I felt like writing and telling that, and then passing that knowledge on to my children.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was again very special to me. And while seeing those pieces on your account, I was like, I think I should also go back to writing a few of the letters, because I think that I have things to say.
It's a very beautiful thing to do, and it's also, I feel like maybe it's also great as kind of like writing practice, or like writing prompt even, because you can always turn a letter into a shorter piece if you want to, or whatever. But I think just starting with a letter is just so, a letter's also like so raw in a way, because you don't know. I just remember the movie To All the Boys I've Loved Before, on Netflix. Yeah. When she writes, like, for anyone who doesn't know, maybe for every there's like a girl, and she writes like love letters to every like kind of like boy she ever loved or like had a crush on, and then like her sister finds them, and it's a whole story, and the guys, you know they find out that she wrote it to them. So I feel like to write a letter, and to people that won't know and wouldn't know that you write to them, is such yeah, it's a very like intimate like feeling. It's a very, it's a great thing to write it. Yeah, that's true. And it's honestly crazy, the amount of like things and stories I wrote about strangers, and like just people I saw somewhere, and like they won't they won't know, they will never know that I wrote that about them. But it's just a way of just making I feel like it's also a way of like finding your place in this world a little bit and creating it, because I have like this thing where I sometimes feel very like apart from anything, and like not really fitting, or not really like present in situations or groups of people. And writing is like saying, like, give me, it's like making yourself a place in those in those environments and surroundings. So yeah, it's a great thing. But can I ask you about, so your grandmother? I just didn't. So your
Grandmother's parents, they were
so
writing
grandparents.
letters. Yeah, so he had to work, and then he left the city to go to either another city or another country, and they kept writing each other letters every single time, and that
So
they miss each
beautiful.
other, that they're waiting for each other. And my grandma, so it was her parents, so my grandma still kept those letters after so many years. Like, they're not alive, even they died very young, but they're not alive. And then she kept those as memories. It's wonderful, it's so beautiful. And then she shared it with us, and we've never met them, we only saw pictures of them, but writing that makes us feel like part of the story, and like we've met
Exactly.
them. Yeah.
Exactly. That's beautiful. I have a similar kind of not that. So I told you that nobody in my family writes poetry, which isn't totally true, because my late grandfather, he unfortunately died pretty soon, when my mother was 20, I think. So we never met them. We never met him. Sorry, but he wrote poetry when he was alive, just for himself, just and I feel like it was like last year, a couple of years back, my grandma found the notebooks, and he wrote a lot about nature, and just his feelings. And he also wrote about my grandmother, which is I mean, it's the most beautiful, like, heart wrenching, heartwarming things ever. And you know, even though I didn't meet him, and I didn't have the chance to meet him, I feel like I do every time I hear from him, and every time I read poems. And he even, the cutest, I mean, I know that I really would have, loved him a lot. He told, before he died, it was kind of like he knew he was gonna die. It was a weird thing. He once told my grandmother that, if he's passed, like he could maybe, or like she could maybe like sell, the poems, and just, get a couple of pennies, here and there from it. She never did, but she kept him. And I do, that's a secret nobody knows, I will tell you. I do want to someday publish his, or like a couple of his, like, it's written in Russia, so I have to obviously translate it, but I do want to publish his poems one day.
Wow, I love the story, and I want to say two things about this, that I would be very, very excited to see those poems. And it would even be awesome if you could like also either continue his poems, or like not all of them but a few of them maybe, to create that collaboration that you wouldn't be able to create otherwise, because you didn't meet him, you didn't get to meet him, but at the same time you would get the chance of collaborating with him. And the second one is that you said that you would have loved him, and I think that not only do you get to meet him every time you read what he wrote, but also every time you write, because we are, I think, connected to the people which are in our families, and again, our parents, our grandparents, our great great grandparents, and all of them, through not only through genes, but I think we have those personality traits or those characteristics about ourselves that are connected to people who are not only like our immediate family, but also our ancestors are like generations even older. So I think that every time you write, you also metaphorically met him, because you have that and you may be from him and thanks to him. So maybe that's your special connection that nobody else in your family does, because they create art in different ways, but you have that writing connection with him.
I guess so. I guess so. Yeah. My grandmother always tells it to me that that's probably like our connection, because even the things he wrote about, the emotions were so deep, and unfortunately also very, hard things, and emotions that, difficult ones, and very, just feelings, I guess, that many people and that I can relate to. um and to read them, it's just, it's the biggest blessing to have, to have his writing. And yeah, I really do want, and I actually do want to take, some, of his poems, and kind of write them with me, or like finish them, in a way. Even though, it's a hard thing, and I do find it very, like, I don't know, it's such it's such an intimate thing, and it's kind of also feels like, not betraying, but it kind of feels like having my hand in his words and emotions, and I don't really like this, idea and image, but um I do think that it would be a beautiful thing to do. Not with everything, but maybe with one or two, um just to feel, just to bring the connection, just to show that, you know your writing means something, and especially now, that he's gone. It's you know very, and just the stories, everything. Like, my grandmother's also just like a natural storyteller. I would say, like, just everything, she talks about, and everything my mother talks about, and the person that he was, and everything he did, also for his neighborhood, and just strangers, and just, friends, family, everybody. I feel like he was just like a very, just light as a person, you know but his poems sometimes, when you read them, feel very dark, and with difficult emotions. And just, this kind of balance just also reminds me very much of myself. And I think it's just, way it is for most people, that you just, you just are a human being, with very many different sides to you, and but just human sides to you. And that's very beautiful that he was able to, write it down, and express it, because I don't know if he ever spoke to someone, about it.
Yeah, that's awesome that you found it, that you're thinking of maybe publishing those one day, like even if it's just one or maybe two or I don't know how many. But also I think that that's the balance that personally poetry does to me and give to me as well. It's just whenever I'm like around people and stuff, I don't like being negative. At least I try not to be negative. And whenever I have any type of negative emotion, I like to write about it instead, because it also helps me go through those things, but also helps me not to spread those negative emotions on people. It's just that me, I'm writing about it and I'm going through that way. And I also relate to him in that sense. And you are able to keep that healthy balance for yourself that way. Like you're not spreading that negativity, you're just writing about it and also spreading positivity instead, and it just creates a beautiful balance itself. And if you had the chance to kind of talk to somebody who has never read your poetry, how would you describe it to them?
So that's, yeah, very good questions. Um, that's a good question. I would say, I mean, I once asked my, my readers kind of on Instagram, if they would describe my poetry as, either like daytime poetry, or like, or like nighttime poetry, I guess, or like day and night thing. And most of them said it's like poetry for the night, which is a big, I don't know, for me it's like a huge compliment. So I would say, for everybody who has not read my poetry, I would say it's, that's a, uh, I would just say it's human poetry in every single and every last aspect, because it's, you know, I wouldn't even say most, but it's also not 50-50. I mean, I guess I write more about difficult topics, but I do think everybody does, because I do think, I'm not saying that it's easier, but I just think it's just more necessary, because I always say that, if you would be happy all the time, every day of your life, you would probably never write, or like do any, other kind of like, art, because you wouldn't have the need to. And because we feel difficult things, and because we live through difficult experiences, we have to find a way to release and to express those emotions. And art and writing is just a great place to do it. um so yeah, I would say it's just like, sometimes it's rather light, a lot of times it's rather like dark and like heavy emotions. Um I would say that my poetry is, hopefully, yeah, fingers crossed, easy to understand, but a little bit harder to digest, in a way that, I feel like I write pretty simply. There's no I'm not Shakespeare. I'm not, I don't write very, I guess, I don't know, like poetic. I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but like I'm not a writer who writes like big, or like, like fills every little single space with, lines and words and metaphors and like, stuff like that. I don't typically do that. Um, but I do think, emotion wise, it's maybe a little bit harder to digest, but I do think that that's why it's so healing, at least for me. And yeah, I just would say, I probably would just say that it's very human poetry about very difficult emotions, sometimes about, very happy feelings. There's, I don't edit my poetry too much ever. Um, I mean, I rather go like to the side of like not editing it at all, which I mean, I do edit it, but very little, because that's I feel like that's the best way to reserve or to preserve like the rawness of it. So I do that. Yeah, sometimes I mean you will find like grammatical errors in my poetry, I guess a lot, which I hope it's okay. Um, yeah, it's just I mean I would just say it's human poetry. It's just
I
it's
love
just me writing.
I love that, and that's very intriguing and also poetic itself. And then if they want to find out more, they can just go ahead and understand what that human poetry is. Because
Exactly.
after you read it, you're like, oh, now I understand what she means, and that's truly accurate to what you write. And I really, really loved our conversation, and I am so grateful that you gave me the chance to explore you, your writing, your journey, and also potential friendship with you. So, thank you so much for doing this and for writing and for also like continuing this journey with your writing and our and your emotions together. Thank you so much. If you have like any additional things that, or like, I don't know, concluding things that you want to tell people or me, please go ahead. And also, just letting you know that I'm going to link your account in the description of the video. And if you have anything else that you would love for me to link, let me know. So the stage is yours for the concluding thoughts. And yeah,
So first of all, thank you so much for doing this with writers in general and choosing me for one of your interviews. It was very great to talk to you and to talk about my writing and writing in general. I think it's very important, and I do actually have. I love to talk about that because it's I want many people to participate in it. I started a writing project, which you may have seen, which is called Behind a Writing Mind. Um, and behind a writer's mind or behind a writing mind, I forgot. One of those two. So it's pretty much a writing project about us writers and poets and our work, and to just show the backstory of it, our writing style, and just show a little bit more than just the lines that you wrote about it, and just open up more about your poetry. I feel like I do that a lot with my long captions and everything that I write under my posts, but a lot of people don't, which I understand. But I think it's a very great way, and I wish more people, more writers would do it. So I started this writing project. So everybody, go check it out. It's linked. It's fixated on my, first, it's on my website. It's on my Instagram page above everything. So, and besides that, thank you for listening to me. Thank you again for asking me. That's very cool. I love it. Always like, and sometimes like imagine myself like doing interviews and like random like sitting in my room like
me
answering questions.
too. Me too. I thought I was the only one, and
That's
then
why you do it. That's why you do it. It just manifested your own career, I guess. Um, so
absolutely.
I do that a lot. So thank you so much. And for everybody who hears me, thank you for reading my words, and everybody who will get on my page and read my writings. I really can't say what it means to me that people want to read it, because it's not that poetry gives me a voice. You all give me a voice too. We're reading it, with connecting to it, relating to it. Even if it's difficult things, and I wish no one would relate to it, but secretly, I am grateful that people feel it, because that's, as you said, that means that we are not alone in everything that we are going through. And that's a huge, I mean, for me it's a big source of hope that I have. So thank you. And just if you decide to read my poetry, or if you don't, just know that be opened up, I guess, and be vulnerable, and just know that you're enough, and you're everything and more. And you just need to own your truth, and everything else, everything that people ever said to you, everything that they write about you, no matter what it is, it doesn't matter. And that you are a human being, and whatever else and whatever label, people want to put on you, um, it doesn't matter. You, and you know your heart, and that's all that's ever, I guess, counted. So
That was so sweet. And that was very, very sweet and considerate of you to also fill your last, let's say, message of the video with so much self-love and inspiration and self-acceptance and just motivation to be yourself. Thank you so much. And
thank
again,
you.
thank you for doing this. And thank you, everybody, for watching because doing these is very, very special to me. Very, very special that
You're
I get.
very, very great on it, to it. Very
Oh,
great about it. You know what I mean?
yeah, I do. Thank you so much. I'm happy to know that because I don't know. I'm just trying to create something that I know I would personally watch. So
It's
thank you,
it's very
everybody.
great. It's very meaningful. So you do a great job.
Much.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's very special. Thank you, everybody. See you in another episode very soon.